Now, at a town hall style meeting Wednesday of this week, Spotify executives reiterated to employees that the company acts as a platform that distributes Mr. Rogan's show rather than a producer or publisher, according to this transcript of the meeting. Mr. Eck said in the meeting that some employees felt hurt by the content, and it was important for them to understand why the company struck a deal with Mr. Rogan and how effective it has been for Spotify's growth. Let me throw something in there. This whole thing about employees at Spotify not liking the fact that Joe Rogan is on their platform, then quit and go someplace else. If you don't like what your company stands for, be a man, be a woman, be a person with some type of cojones, and just leave. Don't stomp your feet and demand that things are done your way. Don't do it. Now, the Joe Rogan Experience, which is the number one show in 93 markets, according to Mr. Eck, during the interview on Wednesday, he also said in 2021, Joe Rogan Show was the most listened to podcast every month in more than 30 markets, including in the U.S. That's just one market, okay? Not St. Paul, Minnesota being one market. The U.S. is one market, okay? So it's the number one podcast in the U.S., which is probably where the majority of their money is coming from, even though Mr. Eck and Spotify is, I think it's a Swedish company, I want to say. Anyway, Mr. Rogan's listeners have grown by 75% from the time they joined Spotify's platform in 2020. Okay? From September 2020 to December 2021, listenership has grown 75%. Now think about that. Joe Rogan went from being on every platform known to man to being on Spotify only. So 150 million different platforms to one platform. And his listenership has grown 75% since that time. That tells you he's doing something right, wouldn't it? Now, reportedly, for Spotify's business, Mr. Rogan listeners are highly engaged. They return to Spotify to listen to more, and they tend to listen to other content besides his show. I do. The company said, in short, Mr. Rogan's show has been crucial to making Spotify the top U.S. podcast platform by listeners, according to audio data research provider Edison Research. Now, the last statement by Mr. Eck. Obviously, with 11 million creators, that's how many people there are on Spotify, 11 million. Obviously, with 11 million creators, there's a lot of discourse. There's a lot of things here I don't agree with. A lot of people might even find offensive too, Mr. X said. And yeah, that's part of being a platform. That's huge. And I'm glad he said that. Here's the problem that Daniel Eck is having. And it happens anytime anybody steps up to the next level of anything. When you're a guy making no money, trying to get listenership, trying to just throw stuff out there and become a success, you can be cutting edge, because being cutting edge, being new, that's what sets you apart from the rest, okay? And what set Spotify apart from the rest is no platform pays me anything to be on their platform. I'm on all sorts of platforms because that's how I get listeners, making it easy for people. 4% of my listeners are from India. 4 to 5% are in India because I'm on an Indian platform called JioSaavn. Okay, if I wasn't on JioSaavn, I probably would have 0 people in India. But JioSaavn doesn't pay me anything. Spotify paid Joe Rogan $100 million for exclusivity on Spotify. That's a lot of money. That was a risk that they took. And it took off, and it paid off. And now they are on top. Big difference when you're the up-and-comer, the underdog, and then when you're the top dog, the man. Mr. Eck, and Spotify are now the man. They're on top. They're making lots and lots of money. So now they got to figure out, okay, how do we do this? How do we not make people angry? How do we stay true to our mission statement? And most important, how do we continue to make money? Now, here's why Joe Rogan's podcast and Neil Young's opinion and Joni Mitchell and all the rest of them, here's why it's different from what Facebook does in banning people, what Twitter does in censoring people, and what YouTube does by taking off content they don't agree with. Neil Young said, you know what? Take my content off. Joni Mitchell said, take my content off. And they've always been activist artists, okay? Joni Mitchell is 77 years old, worth $100 million. Again, she's going to do what she thinks is right. And if she doesn't want Spotify to play her music, she's 100% fine. I'm fine with her having them take it off. Spotify needs to decide then, are they going to keep the music and make the money, or are they going to go ahead and stay with a platform of being all-inclusive? They got to do one or the other, okay? They may have made their choice. A story that came out just a few hours ago on a website called The Verge. And The Verge is they're like the Hollywood Reporter for the internet. Okay, I like them, called The Verge, theverge.com. Check them out. As of yesterday, about 70 episodes of Joe Rogan's podcast mysteriously disappeared from Spotify on Friday. That's as spotted on the jremissing.com website. That's Joe Rogan Experience Missing. That's what JRE stands for. That's a web tool that tracks missing episodes. The show and Spotify's relation to it have faced heavy criticism in the past few weeks, but there's no clear connection between that and the missing episodes, nor is there any immediate apparent link between the episodes that were removed. In other words, they didn't remove all the anti-vax episodes because most of these were older, before Corona even hit. Now, Spotify has also addressed the controversy, making its content moderation policies public and holding a tense town hall meeting to defend the company's relationship with Rogan. That was Wednesday. We talked about that in the last story. Now, all of that is why it's just a little bit weird that a bunch of episodes have gone missing with no explanation. Now, JRE, the Joe Rogan Experience, has 1,700 episodes. 70 of them are gone. So is 70 a lot? Yeah. Is 70 a lot compared to 1,700? Maybe not. But a spot check done by The Verge on data from JREmissing.com showed that the episodes were no longer on Spotify, even though they had been available to subscribers as recently as last year. Now, Spotify didn't immediately reply to The Verge request on comment as to why the episodes were removed, and most of the explanations that immediately jumped to mind don't seem to hold water. Now, the episodes removed on Friday aren't new episodes. In fact, one of the most recent featured Gad Sad, who I like, by the way, but he's very controversial. And it aired back in 2018. There was one episode that was episode 4 of 1,700 that premiered in 2010. Okay, that's gone. Now, given that the episodes were released years before the pandemic, it's unlikely that they contained COVID misinformation. Okay, back in 2010, 2018, we didn't know about COVID. It wasn't even on the radar. It was not around. Now, it's almost certainly not a situation where the guests requested the episodes to be taken down to avoid further association with Rogan either, like Gad Sad, who's a pretty right-wing guy. There are still 7 episodes featuring Gad Sad on Spotify's archive, so they took down some, but not all. Now, a Twitter thread from Michael Malice seems to imply that he didn't have anything to do with the episodes that he's featured on being taken down either. This isn't the first time episodes have been removed by the JRE archives. Over 40 episodes disappeared April last year, and we talked about them, and some of those were put back on. But it's unclear why it happened at this time. Joe Rogan also didn't immediately reply to The Verge's request for comment, but The Verge promises that if Rogan responds, they'll let us know. Now, Coast to Coast broadcaster George Norrie says there's no such thing as a coincidence. I have to think that that's right. Now, why did they take these 70 episodes down? Don't know. Was it controversy? Was it bandwidth? I mean, these may have been the 70 episodes that nobody had listened to in 6 months. So maybe they took them down for bandwidth. I don't know. But when you go on a public forum, a town hall type meeting on Wednesday saying, we're not going to take any stuff down, and then 2 days later take a bunch of stuff down, you got to figure out what's going on here. Now, as I said before, this is not like Twitter or Facebook or YouTube saying, you know what? I don't agree with what you have to say. So we're going to take you off of our platform. Maybe that's what they did Friday. I don't know. But for the most part, Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, all these others saying, look, we don't want your stuff we don't want our stuff on your platform. It's their intellectual property. That's their choice. Okay. That's not anybody censoring anybody. That's the artists who create intellectual property saying, don't put my intellectual property on your platform. Big difference. Huge difference. And actually, while I don't agree with Neil Young or Joni Mitchell or any of the rest of them, that's their right. And I'm fine with what they do. Okay. Besides, I've just listened to them on something else, which is what they're kind of hoping. Okay. But it's just very, very interesting where this is going to go. I'm not a big fan of censoring stuff. I'm not a big fan of anybody saying you can't say anything. Now, I will tell you that there are podcasts that I listen to, people I like. They have stuff on there that, first of all, it's just wrong. And a little editorial note here: if you're a podcaster and you're putting stuff out there that's just wrong and stating it as fact, shame on you. You're going to lose credibility with your listeners. If you're a podcaster, listen to the Strongman. Do not put crap out on your podcast that's wrong, that's false, that's just a lie. Don't do it because you lose credibility. Now, to say this is your opinion, and if your opinion is out there, that's a whole nother deal, okay? I am not saying, you know what? It's a fact that Bigfoot is real. It's a fact that Bigfoot is out there. It's a fact that the government has Bigfoot in jail. No, none of that is a fact. Might be true, except I don't think they have him in jail. He'd got a lawyer by now and he'd be out. But yeah, is there a Bigfoot? Yeah, maybe. Maybe not. I kind of think that there is, but that's just my opinion. You can't say it's a fact. Again, a note to podcasters out there: keep your credibility. If something's an opinion, explain it as your opinion. Talk about it as your opinion. Don't talk about it as a fact. If you're going to talk about the vaccine, well, it's a fact that who is it out there? I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody who I halfway respected. It was a person that should be halfway smart, saying, why, 10 million people have died by taking the vaccine. No, they haven't. 10 million people haven't died by because they took the vaccine. Well, the vaccine will kill you. Well, the vaccine has killed some people, but all vaccines do. If you have a headache and you take aspirin, you take too much aspirin, it's going to destroy your stomach. Any medicine, any vaccine, you have a reaction, you have an action and a reaction, okay? There are, what's the side effects to any medicine out there? There's side effects to the vaccine, okay? If you're a podcaster, or if you're just a guy talking on the street, don't talk smack. Because with me anyway, if I hear you talking smack, I'll challenge you on it. And if you refuse to listen to me, I'm not going to push the issue. I'm not going to argue with you. But I'm not going to listen to or believe anything you say from now on because you've established yourself as being a charlatan and somebody who doesn't do their research. Just a little piece of friendly information, friendly advice, I would say, from the Strongman. Well, that's it. We're done. Hope you enjoyed the second podcast of the week. Wow. 2 podcasts in 1 week. What do you think about that? JamesStrongShow@hotmail.com. That's the email address. Send me your email. I will send you a link to the podcast upon publications. You can download it and listen to it at your leisure. Unlike Joe Rogan, I am on many platforms. iTunes, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Facebook, Twitter, TuneIn. No, they've not banned me, not yet. Radio Online, the podcast app, YouTube, Spotify. Actually, I'm not on Spotify. Yes, I am on Spotify. Google Podcasts, Castbox. I'm not on SoundCloud because they want me to pay to be on SoundCloud, and I don't do that. Deezer, Podcast Addict, GeoSavant, Spreaker.com, Amazon Music, Podcaster with 2 R's. That's Brad Hildebrand's